Kalam is metaphysics, in sense that being qua being, and Mutakallimun were seeking for the real nature of things, especially. Therefore, they dealt with this kind of issues. So, if you consider Jahiz, for instance, he differentiated Kalam into two sections. The first one is Kalam al-Falsafa, and the second one is Kalam al-Din. Then, when we come to Imam Ash'ari, he differentiated Daqiqul Kalam and Jalilul Kalam. Also, in the later period, Mutaakhirin period, we saw Masail, Wasail, this kind of differentiation. Even critics of Mutakallimun, for instance, Abu Hayyan al-Tawhidi, he asserted that Kalam is classified, the topics of Kalam are classified into two sections. The first one, Daqiq, which are related, Daqiq topics which are related to reason. And the second one is Jalil topic, which are related to revelation. It sounds our today terminology, natural theology and revealed theology, especially. And I have an article about that, the place and role of Daqiqul Kalam in classical Kalam. And of course, it is very difficult to depict all Kalam in same extent, because Mu'tazila, Ash'arites, and Maturidis have different aspects, this kind of topics. For instance, I encountered very interesting passage from Abu Mun and Nasafi's Tabsiratul Adillah, and he said that it is one of the popular views of our companions that they did not conduct inquiries on the true reality of things unless it is required to support principle of religion. Many times he repeated this in a different manner. For instance, in another aspect, Imam Maturidi is not interested in defining the true reality of something unless he needs it in the religious affairs. It shows that Daqiqul Kalam or other terminology and Mutakallimun interest in, especially Maturidi Mutakallimun's interest in physical topics refers to natural theology, not just dealing with cosmology, not just dealing with physics and other issues. They dealt with this kind of topic for the sake of religion. This is very important text in my view. So I want to talk about a little bit about atomism in early Kalam, and there are some questions about that. Why did Mutakallimun adopt atomism especially? Because this question is mainly answered according to later situations after Mutakallimun adopted and changed it and reconciled it, creation theory of Islam. But it sounds to me that today evolution theory, because before Mutakallimun adopted atomism was regarded atheistic and materialistic theory, as you know. Epicurus, Democritus, and other philosophers, all of them were declared infidels. And on the other hand, Mutakallimun preferred atomism. They would prefer other theories, for instance, Aristotle theories, also Platon's theories and other theories, because other theories give place for God. They have place for God. For instance, Aristotle's first mover, Neoplatonists have one. Everything emanates from the one. Also, Platonist has Demurg, for instance. But on the other hand, Mutakallimun preferred atheistic theory? This is very interesting question, and it is worth dealing with. I don't want to get into too much because my topic is right now different. The problem of source of Kalam atomism is also important questions. And before they, for instance, Sholem Pines tries to find and relate Indian atomism, then McDonald's related Kalam atomism to ancient Greeks atomism, but they didn't find answer because Mutakallimun's atomism comes with very distinct character, very peculiar character, and you can't find anywhere that kind of atomism. Also, when we see at early period, we see that atom in the early period did not play as much role as like classical period, because it was just a theory. There were other theories. For instance, some Mutakallimun defended that the universe is composed of accidents. Some of them maintain that the universe is composed of bodies. Then some of them maintain that the universe is composed of indivisible substance and accidents. But of course then the theory that the universe is composed of indivisible substance and accidents became dominant view of Kalam. And also we need to consider that point. And because in 9th century there is a very productive situation, and at that situation atomism got his shape, is peculiar and to Islamic civilization, and that's why researcher doesn't find exact background coming from ancient Greek or Indian, because Mutakallimun contributed it. So in the morning we got very nice discussion about the role of Arabic language in Kalam especially. And when I was dealing with atomism, I encountered that there are two kinds of approach for Mutakallimun, the ways of Mutakallim for articulating atomism. The first one, language-based atomism, I called this. For instance, I encountered a discussion in Ibn Frig's Mücerred-ü Makalat el-Eş'ari, and there Imam Eş'ari discussed with a philosopher what is the nature of duration, sukun. And the philosopher asserted that sukun means that if something stays same place in 2 instants of time, we call this duration, sukun. But Imam Eş'ari, depending on Ahl Lugha, he says that sukun is only one moment is enough to call a situation as a sukun. And then he raised a question, philosopher, by saying that how did you get to know that sukun needs 2 times of duration and in the same place? Philosopher answered this question by making nazar, a reference, by making nazar and istidlal and inference. But Imam Eş'ari said to him, please tell me, what does it mean, ungutungus mugudu? Very interesting term. But philosopher surprised. He said that I didn't know anything about that. What do you mean? Imam Eş'ari answered him, please make nazar and answer my question by using your rational interpretation. Please answer that question. But philosopher answered that I can't say what does it mean by referring. And Imam Eş'ari answered that, how do you say that by making nazar? Sukun means blah blah. Very interesting. And then I noticed that cosmology and language in the long term and come together, and a language, Arabic language, starts carrying a kind of worldview. And cosmology and language is closely interconnected. And terms of words of language starts carry a special meanings coming from outside, and this is very special issues. Then also I noticed that there is a mathematical based atomism in Kalam, especially it was used by Mu'tazila scholars especially. Why did they use it? Because according to Mutakallimun, atoms don't have any dimension, and only point in the mathematics can express what does it mean. And by using point in the mathematics, they try to explain how things come together, and they create extended or dimensional bodies especially. And you can see at the background, for instance, Abu Huzayl asserted that 6 atoms needs to make a body, and Muammar says 8 atoms, and also other mutakallimun assert different numbers of atoms. But mutakallimun usually use language, Arabic language. They prefer 2 atoms are enough to make bodies. So let's ask a question. Where the Maturidi's atoms? There is a very nice text coming from Nasafi, Tabsiratul Adillah. He is explaining the situation. As for body, according to mathematicians, it is that which has 3 dimensions. By 3 dimensions, they mean etc. He explains like mathematics. Then he asserts very interesting saying. He says, our early companions and all of Mu'tazila supported their view on this topic and asserted that the body is that which possesses length, width, and depth. And but the problem continues. Why? Because Imam Maturidi's position is not clear about whether he is atomist or he is against atomism, and it turns out very interesting discussion about that. So Abul Mun al-Nasafi says that Imam Maturidi was suspicious about the existence of substance, Jawhar, he says, and he finds the bodies consist of accidents, Ras, more appealing with slight hesitance, he says. He didn't directly tell this, indirectly tell this, but he expressed that Imam Maturidi find very appealing. This view is very nice. Why? He explains that because we don't see substance and we can only see accidents. And also Abul Nur Nasafi also he says that along with this he did not identify with this view as his own, but he just find very attractive. And also he gives a book's name, but this book doesn't reach our today world, unfortunately. We don't have this book right now. Kitabul Makalat, like Imam Eshari, Imam Maturidi wrote Kitabul Makalat. So when we see Kitabul Tawhid and his another books, for instance, and we encounter very interesting saying. and methodological saying especially. He says, Imam Maturidi, the universe is known by observation, not by rational proofs. So, ulim al-alemu bil-basar, la bit-delail, he says. But he means by delail, reflections and other nazar and istidlal. And depending on this principle, he is very suspicious about whether substance exists or not, because he says that we know existence of the substance by reasoning, not directly, because we say that accidents don't exist by themselves. Let's try it. For instance, compassion refers to accidents, correct? Compassion. Just try it. Where is the compassion right now? In Milky Way galaxy? In the moon? Where? Where is it? We have to find a mother. Mother should carry compassion. And you can't think of accident without having any base, without having any carrier. But it's not enough for Imam Maturidi to accept it, because he says that. Recently, I read an article which is written by Hannes Affen. He is a Nobel winner physicist. He has a very nice article. He asserts that Ibn Khaldun is the first person who declared cosmology must depend on observation rather than rational speculations. But this is the exact saying. He says that the universe is known by observation, not by proofs. Depending on this principle, he is very suspicious, but he didn't directly reject in Kitab al-Tawhid existence of Jawhar. Contrary, he tried to make use of it to establish God exists, because his approach is cumulative case. He is gathering a lot of proofs everywhere. Even he asserted some views and transmissions also accept that God exists. Usually mutakallimun reject that. Transmissions, if it doesn't depend on observation, true transmissions, for example, trustworthy report, mutawatir mudor, report, it must be depend on observation at the end. But if it depends on rational consideration, you can make it as a proof. So let's move on. Really? Yeah. So can we say that was Imam al-Maturidi anti-atomist, for instance? It doesn't mean that he's anti-atomist. Why? Because there are different kind of atomism we should consider. Also, in his work, Kitab al-Tawhid, he argued that since the powers of the universe are finite, then the universe should be finite as well. And thereby, he defends an argument for the existence of God. Similarly, Imam Maturidi, in his interpretation of Araf, Surah Al-Araf in the Quran, states that the universe is composed of finite fight. He clearly asserted that. So, also, maybe you encounter some works which say that Drar bin Amr was first atomist. For instance, Joseph Van Ness asserted that. And we have very clear textual proof about that. For instance, he's explaining what is the situation of Ashab al-Araz, Abul Mun al-Nasafi. He says that Drar bin Amr deny the existence of those other than auras in the universe. They claim that the universe is only made of bodies, at some and atoms. But please cautious here. According to them, the particles that are subject to division within a body are also bodies on their own. Furthermore, when a particle reaches the inability to be divided further, neither theoretically he uses especially this term, because bilwahm, usually other atomists, for instance, Democritus, asserted that, okay, atoms can be divisible in the wahm, but according to Mutakallimun, you can't divide in the wahm. Why? Because it doesn't have dimension. Even God's power is not, cannot be related to dividing atom, because it doesn't have any dimension. How does God divide it? Something which doesn't have dimension. It turns out absurd, muhal. So, and the official view, Abul and Nasafi says that because in some works Imam Maturidi found attractive, the universe is composed of accidents. But on the other hand, Abul Mu'min al-Nasafi clearly says that this is the official and last view of Imam Maturidi. He says that Maturidi did not agree with such a classification due to the intervening among those three, for bodies are at the same time substances since they come into being by themselves. Thus, he suggested that the universe has two parts, substances and accidents. And this is very important. Some scholars sometimes can have different views, but Imam Maturidi's last decision according to parts of the universe, according to Abul Mu'min al-Nasafi, he accepts classical atomistic point. So my last topic is going to be how did atomism cause occasionism or continuous recreation. So in his physics, Aristotle maintains that if atoms accept existence of atom, they have to deal with very important situation. Look at here. For instance, think about two atoms here. On the top of one of them, another atom. If this atom traverses from that point by continuously, okay, it must be here at first, then at first here, then at first here. But what does happen like that? Atom can be divisible, because you can make a differentiation in your reason. One part of atom is here, another part of atom is here. And Aristotle says that to refrain from this criticism, atomists have to admit that here atoms completely goes out of existence, then here instantly comes into existence. But what does happen? Aristotle says that it causes creation of ex nihilo. But it is impossible. You can't convince any ancient philosopher about creation of ex nihilo. Then Epicurus, to answer Aristotle's challenge, he introduced jerk theory. By the way, I noticed from Ibn Sina asserted that Nazam got his Tafra theory, jump theory, from Epicurus. In the morning, I told Dr. Kain. He was surprised. I was also surprised because Nazam was anti-atomist. Epicurus was atomist. How did Nazam got this
view from Epicurus. Then I considered Epicurus' work, and I noticed that he developed jerk theory. But jerk theory, according to jerk theory, atoms move without traversing mediatory point. Atom goes out of existence and instantly came into existence. So, I'm finishing. I'm very sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
What happens? How Mutakallimun explains the motion? You know that Mutakallimun usually call motion kawn, being into existence, come into existence. Kawn. For Mutakallimun, motion refers to kawn. Look at the Ghazali. How did he explain motion? He says, the states that follow each other through continuous periods of time are described as movement only because they alternate by continuously originating anew and continuously ceasing to exist. The essence of motion is inconceivable without also convincing non-existence to follow existence. But how something goes out of existence, comes into existence again? You can explain this situation without introducing a being which is out of universe. And therefore it turns out, in my view, occasionalism in terms of explaining motion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Muhammad. This is a very important discussion actually, but because we have short of time, but I allow now for discussion. Yeah, please. Any comment?
Just a comment.
Yeah.
Actually, I have discussed this last paragraph in detail in my book of the
Yeah, I benefited your works. Always benefited. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Details.
Yeah.
And I have tried to devise a
Thanks,
model for what they were saying in terms of contemporary concepts.
But it is very interesting to see that the rule of games,
Yeah.
the rules of games were established by Aristotle. Very interesting. Yeah, he says that if you accept atomism, you have to reject causality. That's what Mutakallimun says.
That's right.
That's what quantum physics introduced this kind of things today. Yeah.
Yeah, please.
Mehmet, thank you very much for this nice presentation.
Thank you.
I would like to ask about your interpretation of Maturidi on atomism. So, do you think clearly that there is an explicit statement that shows that Maturidi is an atomist, not interpretation? Second, your reference of the passage from the Tevhilat and Quran about the finite parts of the universe. Does it really show that he accepts atoms? Because the universe might be finite, there might be some finite parts, but how do you derive atomism from these statements?
Yeah. Thank you very much. And first of all, Durar bin Amr. When we look at classical source, usually scholars like Nazam and Hisham bin Hakem were regarded as anti-atomists. You never see that Durar bin Amr was anti-atomist. So also Ash'ari, in his Makalat, he has very interesting part. He says that according to Durar bin Amr, only 6 parts are enough to create a body. His approach is like atoms. One man asserted that 8 parts Other Mutakallimun asserted different parts, but Durar bin Amr also, he asserted that certain parts. Also, Durar bin Amr reject interpretation, which is tadahul. And he says that part of the universe come together by mujawara, next to next, not inside to inside, like Nazam asserted. It shows that they have a kind of atomistic approach. But on the other hand, standard model of Kalam atomism refers to atoms and accidents. Also,
What about Al-Maturidi?
but Maturidi, I want to make sure that Maturidi used a kind of proof. He says that bodies can have, in different time, can have opposite attributes. Sometimes motion, sometimes duration. They are opposite things. And when duration comes, rest comes, motion goes out of existence, and it turns out bodies starts carrying temporal things. Therefore, bodies are temporal. And this proof is usually classical mutakallimun, which defended by bodies and accidents.
But it is a proof for the hudus, not for atomism.
But
Hudus of bodies, not the atomistic nature of bodies.
of course, but why did he use Hudu's argument, even if he doesn't accept that substance doesn't exist?
He may use, but he doesn't accept atomism. I mean, you use philosophical ideas from Western philosophers, but not all of the ideas, right?
Yeah.
Take some of them, you don't take the others.
If you look at, for instance, he criticized Kabi in Kitab al-Tawhid. This is very important clue. He criticized because Kabi defined accidents rather than bodies. He's depending on a Quranic verse. He says that this definition is wrong and accidents refers to everything. This is very important saying. But it doesn't mean that you can say that he rejects standard model of Kalam atomism, but you can say that he completely rejects atomism because atomism comes different shapes.
I mean, he accepts substance accident metaphysics, that for sure, as I understand, from Kitab al-Tawhid.
He mentions.
He accepts Ayn and Sifat. That's it. But he cannot identify Ayn with indivisible particle. There
Correct.
is no definite statement about it.
Correct, but Abul Nun and Nasafi says that his last view is not like this. He changed his view.
Did he write that?
Yeah, I'm going to write it.
No. Al-Maturidi, did he write his last view? Or just
Abul Nun
oral?
and Nasafi says that.
It's a maybe oral transmission to later generations.
But look at other Maturidis. Pazdevi, for instance. He strongly defend atomism. Look at Abul Nun and Nasafi. Look at Nureddin al-Sabuni. You can't show me any Maturidis, especially Mutakaddim Peru, who reject existence of substance, especially indivisible substance. They all agree that. Why? Because Imam Maturidi, you can say that he changed his mind later, you can say. But some works of it, he is very inclined to assert that the universe is made of accidents because he has an epistemological principle. Ulim al-alemu bil-basar la bid-dalail. Maybe.
It seems that Al-Maturidi changed his mind from time to time.
Maybe. What is the last point of it? Him.
Yeah, I think we go to the last question. Yeah, last question. So, any question? If not, okay, no problem. Okay, last question. Okay.
Yeah, please English.
I'll try. The draft your got clear about the translation of Jawhar Farq as an argument against this. Now, I suppose that it's based on that the Jawhar Farq itself as a shape or as a dimension, but if we are saying that it does not have any dimension, so it's transforming from a point to the next point. We mean the next point as something will not go in the middle at all. So I think that what is going right with that is what Imam Fakhruddin Razi said, that the space itself has a undivided, I don't know the word.
Space is made of indivisible parts.
Yes.
Yeah.
Space and time too. So I think if we answer by this thing, we don't have the jumping of theory of Nazam. So that's what I think. So.
Yeah, Said Fude articulated it in the morning. Nazam's view is different in sense that he asserted that without going out of existence and coming into existence, one entity jumped somewhere to another place, for instance. And usually, for instance, Abu Hasan al-Ash'ari, according to Ibn Khurayk, he criticized Nazam's view. This is possible, but only at the situation it goes out of existence and come into existence. But Nazam rejected it. He defends continuous creation, not continuous recreation. But there is a very slight difference between Nazam and Mutakallimun. Because Nazam is defending jump theory without going out of existence, but Mutakallimun defends motion, goes out of existence, come into existence. Maybe we can ask, usually Mutakallimun asserted that accidents are renewing, tajaddud al-wujud. But on the other hand, when we read Kalam, they usually asserted that substance have a continuous existence. Substance has baqa when you can encounter some of classical source. But it turns out problematic. Why? Because why substance follows accidents in terms of hudus. On the other hand, it doesn't follow accidents in terms of tajaddud. Why? Usually Mutakallimun assert that substance is also temporal. Why? Accident is temporal. Why is not substance is continuous? We can ask that question. Also, Ibn Mattaway raised that question about that. Yeah.
Okay, I think thank you everybody. So I think we should start here and we give a thank to Dr. Muhammad. Yeah.